Hey folks, my name is Thomas Lane, and today we are going to look at creating a Google Analytics account. Of course, you want to start by getting to the Analytics website. Easiest way is to go to Google and then type in Analytics, or you can go to analytics.google.com. Upon getting there, you may be greeted with a screen asking you to log into an existing account if you have one, or an existing Google account to set up. Since I don't have one on here, we're actually going to go through the process of creating one, which you start by going to use another account. And you go down here to create account, but you can log into a different account if you have one. So we're going to hit create account. And you have two options for myself or to manage my business, really personal preference up to you. We're going to do for myself. You just fill out some information here. If you have an existing email address, you can enter one in here, or you can create a new Gmail address instead if you want to do that way. I have an existing email address, so let's actually use that. I would probably recommend creating a new Gmail address, to be honest, because then everything will be located to that address, but feel free to use an offsite email if you want. Pretty sure they'll have you go through and make a Google profile anyways. Okay, so they're going to send you a verification code. So let's actually get that code so we can continue. Okay, so once you have your verification code, you just pop it in, hit verify. It does take a moment to get it. So, they're going to ask you for some additional information. Hit next. They're going to send a verification if you want to your phone. You can hit not now if you want to. We're going to do that. You can read through this stuff, basically telling you why they're using that area. So we're going to agree to it. And then once it's pulled up, we're greeted with the Google Analytics website. So let's actually get in there and start creating. So it's hidden on my browser, but there is a button right here to sign up. I don't know why that's like that, but if it looks white like that, just hover around here and you'll see a button right there. Set up for free. So we're going to click that. And then we're going to be presented with the account steps. So first of all, you want to name the account. It really depends what you're planning on doing at this point. If you're going to be tracking multiple properties, might want something more generalized. If you're just tracking one property, you can do that. For example, we're just going to track one property. So we're going to set it up that way. So let's just type in a basic name, website A. You're then presented with some data sharing options here through the account data sharing settings. If you really want the full power of Google Analytics, you have to have these things all set up and checked because they really are going to give you the additional data. The catch is, though, that some of these things will break GDPR, which is the law that dictates that people over in Europe can have access to their data at any time. So if you're kind of unsure about what that is, look into it a bit more because it can be important if you are dealing with customers overseas. US based, exclusively US based, it's not something you really have to worry about right now, but it's usually good to indicate in your privacy policy or somewhere on your website that you are collecting this data. So we're going to hit next. The next thing we're doing is being presented with the property name, and this is where we're going to put in our actual website that we want tracked. So for my example, I'm going to use a basic website, I'll just call it this fake name because it's going to be a fake website, but it's a good idea to put in your actual name of the property or the website you are tracking and select what time zone you're using. We're East Coast, so we'll do New York. And then you can change currency if you don't want to know what your conversions are like in US dollar. There are advanced options here if you want to. If you're just trying to get this done, don't worry about it. So we'll just hit next. From here, they're going to ask us a few questions about our business. That way we can help Google Analytics, look at what it's going to be measuring and compare it against other properties. This fake company is going to be, a business, small. And then they ask you some survey questions. How do you tend to use Google Analytics? Just pick whatever. It's not a big deal. So once we're done with this information, we're going to hit create. There's some terms of service here. I've read these before. I know what they're saying, but if you haven't, it's usually a good idea to go through these and read them. The reason why this is free is because you're giving your data and the data of Google's, of your customers to Google. So just a heads up. So we hit I accept, and Google's going to ask what we want to receive from email from Google's, do we want to know suggestions, that type of stuff. They usually have pretty good suggestions, to be honest with you. So it never hurts to just leave these checked. But if you don't want any spam coming to your email, just uncheck them all. But we'll hit save for right now. Now from there, we're presented with our Google Analytics backend. They're going to kind of walk you through the process here of setting up Google Analytics onto your website, but it is kind of confusing. So I'll walk us through a little bit on that area. So we know we want to add our website to be able to receive Google Analytics data. The way to do that really is kind of Kind of easy, but at the same time, kind of hard. The first thing, of course, you want to do is when you get to the screen in Google Analytics, or if for some reason you don't get here, you want to go down to admin and data streams. You want to choose what you're telling Google to track. Now we have a website, so we're going to hit web right over here. From here, we choose our prefix to our website, if it's HTTP or HTTPS, and we're going to enter in our web address in that field right there. We're going to enter in a stream name there. We're going to leave this check because this is actually a really nifty feature that lets Google measure page views, outbound clicks, so on and so forth. And we're going to hit create stream. From here, Google has created our tracking ID for our website, which is this measurement ID right here, which you'll want to keep track of because that's what you use to tell Google that it's your site, as you can see by their little, field right here. From there, we go down to tagging instructions, where you are presented with two options. And this is where it can get kind of confusing. But if you know that you already have Google Tag Manager installed, you can choose this option. Most websites don't. They have to install the gtag.js, which is this option right here. And once you click that, you're going to be presented with some code. And this is where you may or may not need a software developer to go in and add it to your website. So let's actually go to our whiteboard right now so we can kind of explain what we need to know in order to properly install Google Analytics. Now, if you have a e-commerce website, which encapsulates stuff such as Shopify, BigCommerce, Square, um, those kind of services, you're in luck. It's extremely easy to add Google Analytics to it. If your website is WordPress, it's still a little bit easier than the next alternative, but it still requires a little bit of technical know-how. Finally, if your site isn't any of these technologies, and it doesn't have some kind of dedicated way to add in Google tag or Google Analytics tag, and it's all hard coded, then that's when you have to get deep into the code, and that's when you will probably need a software engineer, unless you know already how to edit code. Now we're going to look at these two briefly here. Just because that's the easiest way. And I would presume most people use one of these technologies to get their products online. Now, Shopify, BigCommerce, Square, the alternatives usually have a dedicated area to put in your Google tag. What you need is your Google tag ID. And you're actually going to need that for both WordPress and the e-commerce website. So both of these are going to require the Google Tag ID. Okay, if for some reason you forgot your Google Tag or you need it again, just go back to analytics.google.com. On the left-hand side, you might see this bar. You're going to want to hit admin, and then it will load up the screen over here on the right. Ensure that property that you made is correct, and then go to Setup Assistant. You'll be presented with this screen, and then you're looking for tag installation again. You're going to click the property we added earlier, and then you present it with that measurement ID again. And the same way to get that actual physical code right here too. So with Shopify, BigCommerce, and Square, very easy to add these Google tag onto because they built in functionality for you to add it on to the site. So what we are going to do is, choose whatever platform we have here. So let's say we have a Shopify account. We're going to go to google.com. And this is the easiest way to do it, folks. I mean, easier than going back through all of those, menus and stuff. Just type into Google your platform. So we're going to type in Shopify and then Google Analytics. Hit enter, and our first result here will usually always be setting up Google Analytics, no matter what platform you use. From there, they'll guide you through the steps for your specific platform, but we did a lot of these steps here right here. So all we'd have to do with our Shopify account is log into Shopify admin, go to online store preferences, and then there's going to be a Google Analytics section where you can paste that code in. Where is it? Paste this code into that area and have your analytics started. And the same is true, of course, for additional services too. So BigCommerce, if you use that, Google Analytics, hit enter. There you go, setting up Google Analytics. We created our analytics account already. You just have to grab the link from these details or the steps to put in to platform. Same with Square. Square, Google Analytics. Commerce tracking with Google Analytics. Real simple. Okay. So next, let's say you have a WordPress website, which about 48% of the web does. Adding Google Analytics is relatively easy, I would say, but it still can be a pain in the butt. And we can show off that process really easy here. Now, the first thing you want to do is go to your WordPress backend, go to plugins, and we're going to add a plugin in. And the best way to do it, in my opinion, is a plugin called Insert Headers and Footers. We're going to search for that plugin, and then we are going to install it. It's this one right here. And then once it's installed, we're going to activate it. This is where it may get a little bit tricky and you may need a developer, but once you have that plugin installed, you want to go to settings, to insert headers and footers, and then you got to go back to your Google property here. You have to find the tag itself. So if you don't have it pulled up, go to admin, go to set up assistant under your property, go to tag installation, click your property, and then we want the global site tag, and we want this physical code right here. So with WordPress and traditional websites, you have to copy this code. There's a copy button right here, and then paste it in. But you have to paste it into the head section of your code. Now with WordPress, that's easy to do. Notice here how it says site tag into the head section of your HTML. Well, with that plugin we installed, we can pop it right into the header there. We paste in the code, save it, and we're done. Now this website will eventually have Google Analytics running on it. Now, if you have a hard-coded site, a traditional website, it's a bit harder. You do have to copy this code, go into your actual code itself, which code will look something similar to this. And then from there, you plug in your code and then save it, upload it to the server, and you're good, which might require a web developer. But if you know how to do that stuff, then you're in good hands. From there, you'll be good to go. Either through those e-commerce solutions or through WordPress or your hard-coded site, you have successfully installed Google Analytics, and then you can start looking real time at what's going on. And we could see I am on that website I added on. So thank you once again, and have a good evening.